Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we're taking a close look at Wayfair. We've got some interesting materials here, a professional analysis, a due diligence report, both dated April 2025, and a summary of recent happenings. Our job, really, is to unpack all this for you, figure out the key takeaways about Wayfair.
Right. We should probably start with, how they actually operate, their business model.
Good idea. And then maybe their recent financial performance. I see figures here for fiscal year 2024, Q4 as well, and profitability, or maybe the lack thereof.
Definitely need to touch on profitability. And then there's the whole strengths versus risks side of things.
Yes, and how they stack up against competitors. People probably think of Amazon Home, maybe Williams-Sonoma.
Those are the big ones, certainly in the online space for home goods.
And we need to look ahead, too. What's coming up? I see their Q1 2025 earnings are due May 1st.
And they just had their big Way Day sale, didn't they? April 26th to 28th. That could be significant.
It could. Okay, let's get into this.
So the business model first. Wayfair is, it's purely online. They don't have physical stores.
Right. Strictly e-commerce.
Focused entirely on home goods. And the scale is pretty immense. Over 30 million products listed across their different sites or banners.
30 million, wow.
And something highlighted in the analysis is that they've been founder-led since way back in 2002.
That is a long tenure. That kind of consistency at the top can mean a lot strategically.
It often does. And it's not just a website, as you hinted earlier. They've built this substantial global logistics network.
Yeah, I saw that. 17 fulfillment centers, 38 delivery hubs. That's a serious investment in physical assets for an online company.
It really is. And that infrastructure, it could be a key differentiator, couldn't it? Especially for bulky items like furniture.
You'd think so. Gives them more control over delivery, the customer experience, maybe speeds things up compared to relying only on third parties.
Potentially, yes. Okay, so let's pivot to the financials. How have they been doing recently?
Well, the Q4 2024 numbers showed positive year-over-year revenue growth. They hit $3.1 billion in that quarter.
Okay, $3.1 billion. And that brought the full year total for FY 2024 to what?
$11.9 billion for the full year. So, definite operational momentum on the sales side.
That's significant revenue. What about profitability metrics? I know Adjusted EBITDA is often mentioned.
Right. They reported positive Adjusted EBITDA in Q4 2024, around $100 million.
Okay.
And the report notes that's roughly a 50% increase year over year in dollar terms for that metric. So improvement there.
Improvement, yes. But, and this is a big but, isn't it? Adjusted EBITDA isn't the same as actual net income under GAAP.
Correct. That's the crucial piece. While Adjusted EBITDA is positive and trending up, the sources don't give us specific net income or EPS for FY 2024.
But they do mention the net loss.
They do. The net loss apparently narrowed, which is good, down to $492 million for FY 2024. That's about a 33% improvement compared to the year before.
So moving in the right direction, but still quite a ways from GAAP profitability. $492 million is still a substantial loss.
It is. And related to that, there are some notes about their financial health, specifically debt.
Ah, yes. What did the report say?
Looks like they accessed the high-yield debt market late last year for the first time.
Okay, high yield. That usually means higher interest costs.
Usually. And Fitch Ratings also flagged about $2.35 billion in convertible notes that are due between 2025 and 2028, plus a proposed $700 million secured debt issuance.
So they're definitely using leverage. High debt-to-equity ratio mentioned too.
It is, yes. And free cash flow is described as strained, likely due to, operating costs and all that investment in logistics we talked about.
Right, those fulfillment centers don't pay for themselves. So it's a mixed picture. Strong revenue, improving Adjusted EBITDA, but still burning cash on a GAAP basis and taking on debt.
That seems to sum it up. So let's crystallize the strengths and risks. Strengths, founder-led, that big logistics scale, the positive Adjusted EBITDA trend.
Agreed. And on the risk side?
The big one seems to be their reliance on discretionary spending. Home goods aren't exactly essentials if the economy tightens.
People pull back on buying new sofas or rugs. Makes sense. And the lack of clear GAAP profitability is a risk in itself, or at least an uncertainty.
Absolutely. How's management framing this? What's the narrative they're putting out?
They seem focused on a compelling payoff over 2025, kind of suggesting these big investments are about to bear fruit.
Right. Pointing to the year-over-year EBITDA growth as proof the strategy is working.
Exactly. Now, thinking about the market they're in, it's crowded, right?
Very. How does Wayfair fit in versus, say, Amazon Home?
Well, Wayfair's main play is that massive selection within home goods specifically. Amazon Home leverages the whole Prime ecosystem, convenience, existing customer base, different strengths.
And Williams-Sonoma,
Yeah,
they feel a bit different too.
they are more premium positioning, plus they have actual physical stores, which Wayfair doesn't. So different models, different target customers, perhaps.
But Wayfair does have a lot of customers, 21.4 million active ones mentioned. That's not small.
Not at all. But the competition is fierce, with lots of players trying to grab a piece of the online furniture market.
Okay, looking ahead then, what are the key things to watch? Catalysts or potential bumps?
Number one has to be the Q1 2025 earnings call on May 1st. That's just around the corner.
That'll give us the latest numbers, fresh commentary. Crucial.
And the impact of that Way Day event they just held, April 26th to 28th. Historically, that's a big sales driver for them.
So good results from Way Day could set a positive tone for the first half of the year.
You'd think so. The risk, as always, is macroeconomic pressure. If consumers really pull back spending, Way Day results might disappoint, or Q1 earnings could reflect that caution.
It's interesting, though, the notes say analysts actually have positive earnings expectations for Q1, something called a positive earnings ESP. What does that signal?
Earnings ESP, earnings surprise prediction. It basically means the most recent analyst estimates are trending higher than the overall consensus. So it suggests analysts might be expecting Wayfair to beat the average forecast. A hint of optimism there.
Interesting. And that Way Day event, they were pushing deals, right? 50% off the first year for new rewards members signing up around then.
Yeah, typical tactics for those big sale events: drive traffic, acquire new customers, boost short-term revenue.
So potential stock movers, the earnings report, Way Day impact. But as the analysis points out, the bigger picture matters too: overall market conditions. Retail sector health.
Always does. Sentiment seems mixed online, too. Some optimism about their potential, but also worries about the economy and all that competition.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for you, the listener. What have we learned about Wayfair?
Well, we've seen a company with significant scale in online home goods. They are making progress on profitability, at least by that adjusted EBITDA measure.
Right, and they have these big potential boosts like Way Day, but the lack of actual GAAP profit is still a major flag.
And their heavy reliance on consumer spending in what feels like a pretty uncertain economy. The upcoming earnings on May 1st will be really telling.
It feels like the core tension here is between that operational progress, the revenue, the improving adjusted metric, and the broader economic clouds, plus the fact they're still losing money overall.
It raises a key question for anyone evaluating them, doesn't it? How much weight do you, as an observer or investor, put on revenue growth and adjusted EBITDA improvements when the bottom line, the GAAP profit, isn't there yet?
It's a tough balance, and it really highlights the pressures in this specific market. Focusing just on home goods makes Wayfair different, but maybe more vulnerable than a generalist like Amazon when that specific sector slows down.
That focus is both their strength and potentially their Achilles heel, depending on the environment.
So definitely keep an eye on that May 1st earnings report.
Yeah.
And think about how much impact a big sales event like Way Day can really have on the bigger picture. What stands out most to you from all this?
A lot to consider there. Thanks for walking through it with us.
Indeed. If you found this insightful, please do subscribe, like, and maybe leave us a comment with your thoughts.